Welcome to the Revelation of Hope podcast with your host, Alvin Bonds II. Join us each week as Alvin explores the relationship between leadership and families by interviewing leaders in different fields all over the world. Alvin believes that the success of tomorrow's leaders begins with the success of today's families.
Hi, and welcome to the Revelation of Hope podcast. My name is Alvin Bonds II, and I'm so glad to be here today for episode 1 of this podcast. I want to do a little introduction about me and what brought me to create this podcast. Today will be the only time that you'll only hear my voice. Moving forward, and every week that we present a podcast, I will have different leaders from the community, different leaders from government, from business, from healthcare, from the world, to allow us an inside view and perspective into their lives and into their leadership philosophy, as well as how it relates to their family and families in general. So I'm super excited and look forward to an amazing podcast. So about me, my name is Alvin, and I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Tennessee. I am also a licensed marital and family therapist, so I'm a counselor, and I have the opportunity to meet with children, with adults, men, women, everybody, about matters that are distressing to us. I see clients in my private practice office in Jackson, Tennessee, and I'm also a motivational speaker. I completed my undergraduate work at the University of Memphis in Memphis, Tennessee. I earned a bachelor's in business management. I earned my master's degree in marriage and family therapy from Capella University. I completed my undergraduate degree on what's called the Emerging Leaders Scholarship at the University of Memphis. The Emerging Leaders Scholarship program, it changed my life. It allowed me to connect with other campus leaders. It plugged me into a group of people who were like me, that had an interest in leadership, that wanted to do something with their lives and wanted to effect change in the lives of the community and even the world. So that was a great introduction to leadership on a broad scale. And since then, I have expanded my leadership interests and my leadership abilities, and it's led me to create this podcast. And so it's not just about what I think about leadership and what my leadership philosophy is. It's about other leaders, and I want to create an avenue to showcase that. Again, as I work with families in my profession, I have a bird's eye view into the complexities of relationships and the different dynamics in families. And I personally have an interest in families and family makeup. I also have an interest in leadership and have a passion for understanding leadership and for seeking out strong leadership. The reason for this podcast is to bring awareness to the importance of family and to also generate a conversation on how leaders are created and cultivated. We are constantly faced with leaders on a daily basis. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about leaders of our family. It could be leaders of a school, leaders in the community, leaders in government. We cannot escape leadership. And it's important for me to understand how leadership works, how leaders are cultivated. I have my belief on how leaders are created, but I'm interested in understanding from those that are in those positions, whether it's the leader of a chamber of commerce, whether it's a leader of a university, a leader of a government, whether it's someone in the House of Representatives or the Senate, or even a governor or a president. I'm interested in understanding how did those leaders get to the position that they're in, and what about their families? So I want to use this as an avenue of exploring and understanding. We see leaders, we see the persona that is projected to the world, to the community. But I wonder, how did they get to where they are? Who helped develop these leaders? Was there a particular book that they read? Is there a particular family member? Is there a particular person in the community? Did they watch something on television? Did they hear a podcast? What influences our leaders? I want to explore that and get them to tell us. I believe the success of tomorrow's leaders begins with the success of today's families. From my experience, both personal and professional, I have seen the effects of family on an individual's life, their personality, their career choices, their personal choices. I want to understand this more and how family life affects our leadership style, our leadership perception, our mission or individual philosophy of leadership. What influence does our family have on us as we grow and develop into leadership positions, roles, and responsibilities? What a family looks like is different and unique for everyone. Pew Research data reports that in 1960, 73% of children lived with two parents in their first marriage, compared to data compiled in the year 2014, where 46% of children lived in two-parent families of first-time marriages. That Pew report also identified that 15% of children live with two parents who have been remarried or have a blended family. 26% of children live with a single parent. The dynamics of family has evolved and will continue to evolve, but despite the makeup of families, leaders are still being produced. If you look at any of our government officials, you'll discover a wide range of family background. If you look at the makeup of the principals in your school district, if you look at members of Congress, each person has an individual story of how they came to be in a position of leadership. I want to explore the family. How does family impact leadership? Family can have a positive or negative influence or impact on a person's individual leadership. And I want to explore that. I'm not just assuming either way. I want to explore the effects family has on an individual's leadership. I read a quote this week about leadership that stood out to me. It said, "Leadership comes from influence, and influence can come from anyone at any level and in any role. Being open and authentic, helping to lift others up, and working toward a common mission builds influence. True leadership comes when those around you are influenced by your life in a positive way." That quote was by Kurt Euler. He's the CEO and co-founder of Sidekick. And when you think about that, that's very true in my experience. For me personally, but also professionally, there is an element of influence that happens. And I want to explore this concept of influence as it relates to the leaders in our community. And sometimes leaders can seem far away. I want to create an avenue, an opportunity to connect with these leaders, whether they're the leader in our community, it's the leader in our state government, it may be even a leader overseas. I want to reach out and connect with these leaders and bring an awareness to the importance of family, or simply the effects of family on our leadership styles and potential. Another quote I read this week, it says, "A leader is someone who builds their team, mentors them, and then advocates for them. A leader develops the talent around them to be more successful than he or she is. Or to borrow from a mentor of mine, a leader trains his or her assassins." That quote was from J. Kelly Hoy, and she's the author of Build Your Dream Network. So I can go on and on about different leadership styles and different quotes, but I want to invite those that are in positions of influence and of leadership to give us an insight into their lives, an insight into their personal and professional development, how they came to be in their position, and the influence their family had on their lives. For me, I come from a home of divorce. My biological father and mother divorced when I was young. I couldn't even speak. I wasn't even a year old when my parents divorced. And so since then, I have experienced what any child of divorce experiences, blended family, the doubts about self-esteem, identity issues, whatever shared experiences that someone who's experienced divorce most likely experienced those. And some of that has influenced my career choices. I'm also myself divorced. And so I have experienced divorce from both sides, having been a child whose parents divorced, but also a parent or step parent involved in divorce. And so I have no preconceived assumptions about family life, divorce, singlehood, family makeup. I want to explore the different dynamics of family and how each of those influence our leadership potential and our leadership style. And so I want to ask these questions to those who are in leadership positions. Thank you for joining me in this inaugural podcast post. This is one of many I hope to post. Thank you so much for joining in today's podcast. I'm super excited for this journey. Be sure to listen to next week's podcast where I interview Dr. Nicholas V. Holland III. He is the Associate Director of Bands and the Director of Athletic Bands at the Charleston Southern University in Charleston, South Carolina. Here's a sneak peek of that interview.
I've heard a lot of parents say this. But for me, it was absolutely the case. The moment my child was born, my son gave birth, and the moment he was born, something changes. I mean, there is a switch that gets flipped in you as a parent somewhere where you instantly see how important you are to that person and how that person is completely 100% dependent upon you to meet their needs, to take care of them, to teach them, to raise them in the right way, to discipline them, to console them, to support them. I mean, all of that. And I don't know that I've ever been necessarily a selfish person, but I think any human being should admit, at least to some degree, of being a little self-centered, certainly at times, maybe more so than others. But and the other thing, too, for me being a parent and a father especially, my dad left our family when I was 8, and so I never had dad show me how to throw or hit a baseball or put something together or build a birdhouse or, all the things, the stereotypical things that dads are supposed to teach their kids. Mm-hmm. I never had that, and I turned out kind of okay, thank God. So it's kind of but that has always been ready sort of in the back of my spirit to be unleashed upon my children. And so anytime they want to go play catch or read books or color and we still do those types of things even though they're teenagers. Anytime they want to learn how to build something or study music I try to drop what I'm doing and jump at it because it's just important. And what you do, I don't think it matters as much as that you're doing it.
Yeah.
And kind of getting in there and just doing life with your wife and your children. It's kind of funny when I just heard a graduation speech by a valedictorian from a school here in the area, and he was talking about so many commencement speeches ceremoniously talk about changing the world, and he wanted to kind of say the same thing, but he didn't want us to change the world by changing people's minds, but instead to change their hearts. And it was it's a really tremendous young man that goes to my church, and so that's why we were there. And it was just preaching on the fruits of the Spirit.
That's right.
And then if we really want to change the world, we need to start with our hearts.
Yes.
And I get it. It's biblically predicted. We're going to be struggling with this. But at the same time, Christ overcame the world, so we can too. And it could be, maybe it's we're focusing too much vertically and not living out horizontally. I don't know. There's lots of questions that remain in here, but the fundamental issue to me is that we've stopped loving people. We've stopped placing any value on human life, regardless of religious background or where you're from in the world or the pigment of your skin or your gender or whatever.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please be sure to subscribe as well as providing a rating and review. Join us next week to hear the entirety of my interview with Dr. Holland. And every week I will interview a different leader and invite them to share with us their views and perspective on the relationship between leadership and family. Be sure to visit my website. It's www.alvinbonds2nd.com. That's ALVINBONDSII.com. Have a great day.